always thought the worst thing my sister could do was steal my favorite sweater or borrow my car without asking. I never imagined she'd steal 5 years of my life. If you're watching this, you probably know what it feels like to be betrayed by someone you trusted. But I promise you don't know the half of it, not yet. It started on a Tuesday. The kind of day you forget until it becomes the day you remember forever. I was 23, halfway through my second year of medical school, running on caffeine and ambition. My phone buzzed during a lecture, Mom's name flashing on the screen. I ignored it, thinking I'd call her back after class. I didn't know that by the time I checked my messages, everything would be different. When I finally listened to her voicemail, her voice was cold, clipped, almost unrecognizable. "We need to talk. Call us back immediately." I called, heart pounding, but it was Dad who answered. He didn't even say hello. "Is it true?" he demanded. "Did you drop out?" I was so stunned I couldn't speak. "What are you talking about?" I managed. He sighed, the way he always did when he thought I was lying. "Your sister told us everything. We're done supporting you. Don't come home." I tried to explain, but he hung up. I called again and again, but no one answered. My sister Lila didn't pick up either. I texted her, desperate for answers, but she left me on read. That night, I sat on the floor of my tiny apartment, staring at the wall, trying to piece together what had happened. I hadn't dropped out. I was still in med school, still fighting for every grade, every clinical rotation. But my parents believed Lila. They always did. The next day, my tuition payment bounced. My rent check, too. My parents had cut me off just like that. No warning, no explanation. I called the school's financial office, my hands shaking. "I'm sorry," the woman said, her voice gentle. "Your account's been flagged for non-payment. You'll need to resolve this by the end of the week." I hung up, numb. I had 4 days to come up with thousands of dollars or lose everything I'd worked for. I spent the next 48 hours in a daze, calling every scholarship office, every part-time job I could find. I sold my laptop, my textbooks, even my bike. I ate ramen and slept in the library. I didn't tell anyone what was happening. I was too ashamed. I kept thinking Lila will fix this. She'll tell them the truth. But she didn't. The days turned into weeks. My parents blocked my number. My mother sent one last email. "We're disappointed in you. Don't contact us again?" I read it over and over, trying to find some hint of love, some sign that they might forgive me. There was nothing. I survived, barely. I found a job at a coffee shop working nights and weekends. I borrowed notes from classmates, begged professors for extensions. I scraped by one day at a time. I graduated somehow, but my parents didn't come. They didn't send a card, didn't call, didn't even acknowledge the day. I watched my classmates hug their families, take photos in their caps and gowns, and I smiled for the camera, pretending I wasn't alone. Lila didn't come either. She sent a text. Congrats, I guess. I stared at it for a long time, wondering what I'd done to deserve this. I didn't reply. The years blurred together. I started my residency, working 80-hour weeks, sleeping in call rooms, eating vending machine dinners. I got married in a courthouse ceremony. Just me and my husband and 2 friends as witnesses. My parents didn't know. I didn't tell them. I figured they wouldn't care. Sometimes, late at night, I'd scroll through old photos, birthday parties, family vacations, Christmas mornings, Lila and I side by side grinning at the camera. I tried to remember when things changed, when she started seeing me as competition instead of a sister. I never found the answer. 5 years passed. I became a doctor. I built a life without them. I told myself I didn't need their approval, their love, their presence. I almost believed it. Then last month, everything changed again. It was a Friday night. The ER was chaos, sirens, shouting, the smell of antiseptic and fear. I was halfway through a 12-hour shift, running on adrenaline and bad coffee, when the charge nurse called my name. "Dr. Malik, you've got a new trauma coming in." Young woman, late 20s, unresponsive. "Family's on the way." I nodded, pulling on gloves, my mind already racing through protocols. I didn't think anything of it. Just another patient, another crisis. I didn't know, not yet. The ambulance doors burst open. Paramedics wheeled in a woman, pale and still, her hair tangled, her face bruised. I leaned over her, checking vitals, calling out orders. BP's dropping. Get me a line. Push fluids. My team moved like clockwork, but something about her face nagged at me. A memory just out of reach. Then I heard it. A voice in the hallway, frantic, familiar. That's my daughter. Please let me see her. My heart stopped. I looked up and there they were. My parents, older, grayer, but unmistakable. My mother's eyes were wild with fear, my father's hands shaking. And behind them, a nurse holding them back, trying to keep order. I froze. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My mother saw me first. Her face went white. She grabbed my father's arm so hard I saw the bruise forming, even through his shirt. It's her, she whispered. Oh my God, it's her. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stared at them, the people who had erased me, who had believed a lie over their own daughter. And now here they were, desperate, terrified, begging for help, my help. For a moment the world seemed to slow down. The chaos of the ER faded into the background, replaced by the pounding of my heart in my ears. I saw my mother's lips tremble, her eyes darting between me and the woman on the gurney. My sister, Leela. She looked so small, so fragile, nothing like the girl who had once turned my life upside down with a single lie. My father's face was ashen, his jaw clenched, his hands balled into fists at his sides. I wondered if he recognized me, if he remembered the last words he'd ever spoken to me. I forced myself to focus. I was a doctor. I had a job to do. I turned back to Lila, checking her pulse, her breathing, the monitors beeping in a frantic rhythm. Let's get a CT scan stat, I ordered. Page neurology. I want labs, talk screen, everything. My team moved quickly, no one questioning my authority. To them, I was just Dr. Malik, the attending on call. They didn't know the history, the pain, the years of silence that filled the space between me and the family in the hallway. As we wheeled Lila toward radiology, I caught a glimpse of my parents through the glass. My mother was crying now, her shoulders shaking. My father standing stiff and silent beside her. I wondered if they would try to talk to me, if they would beg for forgiveness, or if they would pretend not to know me at all. I didn't have time to find out. The next hour was a blur of tests, scans, and urgent decisions. Lila's blood pressure was dangerously low, her heart rate erratic. The CT scan showed a small bleed in her brain, likely from a fall. There were signs of dehydration, malnutrition, and something else, traces of a medication in her system that didn't make sense. I pieced together the puzzle as best I could, fighting to keep her stable, to buy her time. When I finally stepped out of the trauma bay, my parents were waiting. My mother rushed toward me, her hands outstretched, her face streaked with tears. Please, she whispered, please help her. She's all we have. My father stood behind her, silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. I wanted to scream, to ask them where they had been when I needed them, to demand answers for 5 years of silence. But I didn't. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. We're doing everything we can, I said, my voice calm, professional. She's stable for now, but we need to run more tests. Do you know what medications she's been taking? Any recent illnesses or injuries? My mother shook her head, her hands twisting in the hem of her coat. She's been different lately. Tired, withdrawn. She wouldn't talk to us. We thought it was just stress. My father finally looked up, his eyes meeting mine for the first time in years. There was something there, regret maybe, or just fear. Will she be okay? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer. I couldn't, not yet. I turned away, heading back to the nurse's station. My hands were shaking now, the adrenaline wearing off, the weight of the moment settling on my shoulders. I tried to focus on the chart in front of me, but my mind kept drifting back to the past, to the day my life changed, to the years I spent alone, to the sister who had lied and the parents who had believed her. I remembered the nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering what I had done to deserve their silence. I remembered the birthdays spent alone, the holidays with empty chairs at the table, the wedding day when I walked down the aisle without a father to give me away. I remembered the anger, the grief, the slow, painful process of letting go. And now, here they were, back in my life whether I wanted them or not. I wondered if they would ever know the truth, if Lila would ever confess, if my parents would ever apologize. I wondered if I even wanted them to. A nurse tapped me on the shoulder, pulling me back to the present. "Dr. Malik, the family wants an update." I nodded, steeling myself. I walked back to the waiting area, my white coat feeling heavier than ever. My parents stood as I approached, hope and fear mingling on their faces. My mother reached for my hand, but I kept my distance. "She's stable for now," I said. "We're monitoring her closely. We'll know more once the test results come back." My father cleared his throat, his voice rough. "Thank you, doctor." He hesitated, then added, We didn't know you worked here." I met his gaze, searching for any sign of the man who had once taught me to ride a bike, who had cheered at my high school graduation. "I've been here for 3 years," I said quietly. "I finished my residency last spring." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We're so proud of you," she whispered. The words stung more than I expected. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't. Not yet. I turned away, heading back to the ER. There were other patients to see, other lives to save, but my mind kept drifting back to Lila, to the family I had lost, to the secrets that still hung between us. As the night wore on, the ER quieted. Lila was moved to the ICU, her condition stable but critical. My parents stayed in the waiting room, refusing to leave. I watched them from a distance, wondering what they were thinking, what they would say if I gave them the chance. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my desk, staring at Lila's chart, replaying every moment of the past 5 years. I wondered if things could ever go back to the way they were, if forgiveness was even possible. I didn't have an answer. But I knew one thing. The truth always comes out, sooner or later. And when it did, nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, sunlight crept through the hospital windows, painting long shadows across the linoleum floors. I hadn't slept, but exhaustion was a familiar companion by now. I checked on Lila first. She was still unconscious. Her breathing steady but shallow, monitors tracing every heartbeat. I stood at her bedside, searching her face for the sister I used to know, the one who'd shared secrets, with me under the covers, who'd made me laugh until I cried. I wondered if she'd wake up and finally tell the truth, or if she'd keep her silence even now. I was about to leave when I heard footsteps behind me. My mother stood in the doorway, her eyes red and swollen. She hesitated, then stepped into the room, wringing her hands. "Can I talk to you?" she whispered. I nodded, bracing myself. She sat in the chair beside Lila's bed, her gaze fixed on the floor. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the steady beep of the heart monitor. "I know you probably hate us," she said finally, her voice trembling. "I don't blame you. We made mistakes. We believed things we shouldn't have. She broke off, wiping her eyes. "I just want my daughters back." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "Why did you believe her?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Why didn't you ask me?" She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't know. Maybe because it was easier. Maybe because we were afraid. Lila always needed more from us, attention, reassurance. When she said you'd dropped out, we thought you'd given up. And we didn't want to see it." I closed my eyes, the old pain flaring up again. "You didn't even call. You just cut me off." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to let go of the anger, the hurt, the years of loneliness. But forgiveness isn't something you can force. It's something that grows slowly, if at all. A nurse poked her head in. "Dr. Malik, the attending wants to see you." I nodded, grateful for the excuse to leave. My mother stayed behind, her shoulders hunched, her head bowed. I met with the attending physician, reviewed Lila's labs, and discussed her treatment plan. The medication in her system was a powerful sedative, one she shouldn't have had access to. The talk screen showed high levels, enough to cause her collapse. It was possible she'd taken it by accident or maybe on purpose. I didn't know which was worse. I returned to the ICU where my father was waiting. He looked older than I remembered, his hair thinner, his face lined with worry. He stood as I approached, his hands shaking. "How is she?" he asked. "She's stable," I said. "But we need to talk about what happened. Do you know if she was seeing anyone for her mental health? Any recent changes in her behavior?" He shook his head, his eyes filling with tears. "She was always so strong. We never thought—" He broke off, his voice cracking. "We failed her. We failed both of you." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him it wasn't his fault. But the words wouldn't come. Too much had happened. Too much had been lost. The hours passed in a blur. I checked on Lila, updated her chart, spoke with the nurses. My parents hovered in the waiting room, watching me with a mixture of hope and regret. I kept my distance, unsure of what to say, unsure if I even wanted to say anything at all. That evening, as the sun set behind the hospital, Lila woke up. I was at her bedside when her eyes fluttered open, confusion clouding her face. She looked at me, then at the monitors, then back at me. "Amira?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. I nodded, my heart pounding. "You're in the hospital. You collapsed. Do you remember what happened?" She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I waited, giving her space. She took a shaky breath. I lied, about everything. I told them you dropped out because I was jealous. You were always the golden child, and I couldn't stand it. I thought if they cut you off, maybe they'd pay more attention to me. But it didn't work. They just got angrier. And I lost you. Her confession hung in the air, heavy and raw. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. The truth was out, but it didn't erase the years we'd lost. My parents came in then, their faces pale, their eyes wide with shock. Lila looked at them, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she said again. It was all my fault. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then my mother crossed the room and pulled us both into her arms, sobbing. My father joined her, his arms trembling as he held us close. We stayed like that for a long time. The past 5 years melting away in the warmth of forgiveness. I knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be scars, memories that never quite faded. But for the first time in years, I felt hope.